Devolution, from the Latin word volvere, a word that means to roll. The prefix D means down, to flow down or surrender power. Synonyms include decadence, decline, downfall. Mankind has worshipped gods or deities since before the beginning of recorded history. These deities were sometimes benevolent and sometimes they were malevolent, depending upon the believer's point of view. The Arab pre-Islamic nomadic tribes, also known as Bedouins, roamed Arabian, Syrian, and northern Africa deserts, raiding other tribes, caravans, or settlements. The Bedouins believed in evil agents. They formalized the practice of magic, and they called upon supernatural entities for protection and the granting of their desires. Deities were venerated and invoked through a variety of rituals, including pilgrimages, divination rites, and ritual sacrifice of animals as an offering. According to pre-Islamic Arabic poetry, most sacrifices were concluded with communal feasts. In pre-Islamic Arabia, almost all inhabitants of Arabia practiced polytheistic religions until around the 4th century. Many of these deities did not have proper names and were referenced by titles indicating a quality, family relationship, or a locale preceded by he who or she who. Aside from benevolent gods and spirits, there existed malevolent beings. These beings included ghouls, from the Arabic word gala, meaning to seize. Ghouls were said to have a hideous appearance, with feet like a donkey. Many centuries later, in 1854, occult author Eliphas Levi would create the satanic symbol of Baphomet, a pagan deity of occultism and Satanism. The first sketches would include the feet of a donkey, until finally being converted into the hoof of a goat. The opposition of the pre-Islamic beliefs culminated in Mecca, when the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad, delivered verses that spoke shamefully of the idols the Meccans worshipped. The conquest of Mecca around 629 to 630 AD led to the destruction of the idols. While the idols were gone as totems and statues, the belief of the old ways continued long after being forced into occult practices by Islam. While the list of pre-Sanskrit history of malevolent beings before 1000 BCE, before the Common Era, is indeed exhaustive, Enki, the god of running waters, was known to the Sumerian, Babylonian, and Akkadian mythology. In the Sumerian texts, which existed over 1,000 years before the book of Genesis, from the Torah aka the modern-day Old Testament, was written, Yahweh and Satan were brothers, the extraterrestrials Enki and Enlil. Enki gave mankind the capacity of reproduction, intelligence, and self-awareness. The name Loki, who was a horned god in Norse mythology, comes from the word Enki. Many believe Enki is Satan, more specifically Lucifer. Enki disobeyed his father and was punished for having saved mankind from a great flood. Enki was banished to the underworld to repent. It is believed that one day he will rise from the depths to reign as king. The Dead Sea Scrolls indicate that Enki, or Satan, is the true friend of humanity. Enki is widely believed to be of the Nephilim, a group of mysterious people of large size known as great warriors found in the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. In the Tanakh, the Nephilim are described as the product of human and extraterrestrial intercourse. While this is not a documentary film about the origins of Sathanas, I believe a good foundation facilitates a better understanding of the evolution and devolution of Satanism. The term Satan worshipper, aka devil worshipper, formally originated in the 19th century. Before that period, someone who actually worshipped Satan was simply referred to as a satanic witch. The term has gained popularity due to the wide use of the term Satanism being adopted by atheists instead of true deists and worshippers of Satan. There are a few groups which use or have used the term Satanism as their basis for existence and or manipulated the various satanic beliefs as part of their group's metaphorical DNA. We will examine a few such groups. I am not saying any of these groups are necessarily bad. That is for you to judge. The Fraternitas Saturni, or Brotherhood of Saturn, a German magical order founded in 1926 by Eugene Grosche, aka Gregor A. Gregorius, and others, is one of the oldest magical satanic groups in Germany. Grosche was heavily influenced by the works of Aleister Crowley and literature such as the Saturn Gnosis, the Satanische Magie, and others which dealt with the alignment of sex magic according to planetary and astrological positions. Around 1960, Anton LaVey, a former carnival worker and musician, began hosting a study group which discussed occult topics. The group served as the original members of the Church of Satan, which started on Walpurgisnacht in the year 1966. LaVey was called the Black Pope by those inside and outside of the new church, although he was officially known as the Bishop of the Church of Satan. During this time, assorted articles and essays written by LaVey were put together in what would become known as the Satanic Bible. This book was used extensively to build the popularity of the Church of Satan, which experienced growth beyond LaVey's wildest dreams. The church attracted well-known singers, Hollywood actors, and even Susan Atkins, who appeared in LaVey's nightclub show called The Topless Witches Review. Susan Atkins, who was later known as Sadie in the Manson family, was convicted for her participation in the Manson murders, which took place over a 5-week period in the summer of 1969. While LaVey's Church of Satan would grow into the modern, non-theistic church we know today, LaVey's was not the first organized satanic group in the U.S. As early as 1948, Herbert A. Sloan of Ohio formed Our Lady of Endor Coven of the Ophite cultus Satanas, the first satanic coven of modern record. The name mocked the Witch of Endor from the Bible's first book of Samuel. The Witch of Endor was more of a spirit medium than a witch. The coven claimed to be an offshoot from the Ophite cultus Satanas, which roughly translates as the snake-worshipping cult of Satan. The coven's full moon Sabbath services featured an invocation, communion, and social hour over coffee and donuts. The Temple of Set, who practiced a religion known as Satanism, was formed in 1975 by Michael Aquino. Aquino, who had been a high-ranking member of LaVey's Church of Satan, started the Temple of Set with other members who were dissatisfied with LaVey's approach to Satanism, especially the atheistic mainstream direction, resulting in a carnival atmosphere, complete with a revolving door of entertainers of old Hollywood. In 1970, Aquino wrote the Diabolicon, explaining his growing divergence from the Church of Satan's doctrines. Aquino said Satan had revealed to him a sacred text, the Book of Coming Forth by Night, in which Satan revealed his true name of Set, used by his followers in ancient Egypt. Setians, as they are called, believe that Set is the one real God and the black flame who produces intellectual guidance. They also believe black magic is the medium used to manipulate the physical world. Zena, the daughter of Anton LaVey, joined the Temple of Set in 1995. Zena later resigned from the Temple of Set and formed the Sethian Liberation Movement, SLM, in 2002. Zena currently lives in Berlin, Germany, and practices Buddhism. The Order of the Nine Angles, ONA or O9A, based in the United Kingdom, claimed to be established in the 1960s as a group of traditional Satanists. In the 1980s, the group became known in popular culture as a neo-Nazi group, which participated in public demonstrations with other activist groups known for criminal behavior and violence. The ONA claims of human sacrifice caught the attention of British politicians who call for the ONA to be labeled terrorist group. The Assembly of Light Bearers, ALB, was formed as a remnant after the closure of the Greater Church of Lucifer, which was started by Michael Ford. Their website contains a statement of their belief. Quote, Luciferians do not worship any deity and function as left-hand path adherents who proceed with a transformative black alchemical process. This process is known as the triad of the morning star and is made up of 3 elements of thought, application, and self-determined transformation, liberation, illumination, and apotheosis. End quote. One modern pioneer of Satanism, in my opinion, is Venus Sathanas. Venus Sathanas produced YouTube videos and satanic education before the mainstream floodgates of Satanism were open. She is a devout Satanist, a theist, a spiritual Satanist, and she has been an advocate for the left-hand path before there was really an advocate in the mainstream. If you have not seen her YouTube videos, you should check those out. You will receive a satanic blessing. There have been and shall be many, many others in the future. I am often asked about magnum opus, the coven to which I belong. This would seem to be the correct venue to introduce you to some of our beliefs. Perhaps future episodes will delve deeper than this cursory introduction. Bear in mind, these are our beliefs, and while some individuals may not agree with our approach, we neither seek nor require their approval. In 2010, I wrote my very first book called Magnum Opus: Secrets of the Inner Sanctum. The objective of the book was simple: share the beliefs and some of the practices of our coven, Magnum Opus. During that time, our coven was experiencing tremendous growth, and our existing members found it exhausting to explain the same beliefs and organizational practices to each new initiate. The idea to create a pamphlet we could provide for new members was put forward by a coven sister. The only question was, who would write this new document? I promise this will not be a history lesson on the subject of writing or authorship. However, a few things need to be said for proper context. I had never considered myself as an author, although I had written some brief articles for periodicals which were then defunct. To me, it would be too daunting of a task to write a voluminous edition with all of the tedious editing of grammar and the like. If Magnum Opus, Secrets of the Inner Sanctum, would have started as a book, I probably would not have volunteered to attempt this so-called pamphlet. Since I had no desire to become an author, I believed a rough pass at the document would probably suffice. If you have never written a lengthy work, you will probably not understand the phrase hopelessly staring at a blank page, which I experienced many times during the first few weeks of writing. It was a labor, not a labor of love. I worked on magnum opus for about a month before sharing the rough draft with my fellow coven members. After a short quasi-peer review, some encouraging feedback began to develop, not only about the work itself, but about my unique way of saying things without being condescending or patronizing. One of the coven members, Lightning, who has recently passed away, took me aside and encouraged me to continue writing and expand my field of subject matter, covering more of our coven's beliefs. Without that pivotal advice, you probably would never have heard of Aleister Nacht, much less read any of my works. Things happen for a reason, and when it comes to Sathanas, there are no mistakes for those who wish to serve his purpose. Ave Sathanas. Our coven began as a group of like-minded individuals who were deeply spiritual and to which no belief systems at the current time completely fit. We self-identified as satanic witches who were self-indulgent theists. We were not atheists, and we could not fully relate to Anton LaVey's Satanic Bible, which at the time was the only book available outside metropolitan cities. Before the internet became populated with occult authors, we as Satanists were isolated, living as solo practitioners or underground sub-rosa satanic covens. We were all unconnected. That is why I say we live in such a wonderful time now that anyone can be connected to anyone else and can support one another's work and ministry. As I have stated before, I believe early on Anton LaVey believed in Satan, but he chose to dismiss the matter as his new church grew. To our coven, the Satanic Bible was rambling at its best and atheistic at its worst. There were glimmers of light in the text, however, those bright areas were eclipsed by the overarching belief in your own divination, which to magnum opus coven of devil worshippers was akin to blasphemy. Neither were we polar opposites of Christians. There has always been a stigma associated with Satanists, represented as anti-church, anti-Christ, etc., as their very reason for existence. Frankly, I did not care about established religion except to say established religion cares only about what you can give them. They will not protect you from hunger and homelessness. Each one of us in the coven had witnessed the 1980s satanic panic and knew their actions spoke louder than words. We as a group existed to praise and worship Sathanas, not bash churches of established religion. As practicing Satanists, we were also survivors of the guilt-ridden religions experienced during our youths. We were products of the Bible Belt, complete with the humiliating baggage that comes from years of systematic psychological abuse in the form of guilt and self-imposed inferiority complexes. In our view, no one could ever live up to the tenets of the church, so this was a losing proposition for anyone who was sane and non-fanatical. We never denounced faith itself. We just placed our faith in Sathanas rather than establish religion. We were not dwellers in the negative aspects of life either. I documented this in the manuscript of Magnum Opus, Secrets of the Inner Sanctum, by saying, the chamber of the sanctum must be filled with energy of a positive nature without reservation. This is a prerequisite for successful results. Any negativity will allow a psychic leak to occur, and this will prevent the attainment of your wishes. You must be aware of this fact. To us, being negative and foreboding had very little to do with being satanic. Satanism quickly became the mainstream catch-all for hate and grimacing faces. Satanism was never an excuse to behave badly or to hurt anyone or anything. That was part of the mainstream Satanic Devolution. One thing we all agreed upon in the coven: the human character was primal. At our core, we as humans are animals, acting viciously and cruelly toward each other. We must not disregard or try to diminish this urge within ourselves. To suppress this important natural compulsion is to crush the very thing that makes us human. Fury, rage, hate, all of these are natural emotions that make us feel alive and form our true character. These dangerous emotions create energy to be harnessed and channeled over time, but dwelling in the negative of these emotions is not the objective of Satanism. As Magnum Opus grew in numbers, we would experience the positive and negative results of these human emotions. We had a desperate desire to nourish our fledgling group, and we also wanted to expand the overall horizon of possibilities as a collective group. Seeking the guidance of Sathanas, we would experiment with differing approaches to our practice, always seeking the satanic Gnosis. The Gnosis can be described in many different ways. It holds a special meaning for each person of the left-hand path. I often use the term eureka moment to explain this concept to neophytes. One person may receive the Gnosis in small periodic messages which form an overall concept, while another may receive the concept in full all at once. Others will receive the Gnosis through a combination of these methods. As with any relationship, communication is very important. Satanists should continuously examine and seek to improve communications with Sathanas to fully realize the satanic blessings of the relationship. The Gnosis is also a very good way to verify that you are closely connected to Sathanas. If you have not experienced a true relationship with him, the Gnosis is not possible, since he is the source of the Gnosis. Many practitioners miss out on the Gnosis through their own laziness and or failure to remain focused on the spiritual path. With so many shysters on social media spewing lies, it is easy for searchers to go from channel to channel, person to person, story to story, and lie to lie, trying to find a little bit of this and a little bit of that. This approach only leads to confusion, diminished returns, and frustration, especially when coupled with the modern drive-through culture expecting instant results, instant gratification, and instant fulfillment without investment. No wonder social media rewards the biggest fools selling the biggest lies, with huge followings of narrow-minded, unenlightened twits who simply belong to yet another cliquish animal herd. Without Sathanas and the guardian demon, a person gets lost in the social noise of mindless banter, messages without substance, and cult-like peer pressure to conform to unnatural norms. There is no wonder ludicrous ideas such as selling your soul and joining the Illuminati are so widely prevalent in the social space. It is simply a collection of mindless fools being led by liars. We continue to see satanic groups come and go from the world stage. Some will remain and some will collapse under their own weight. For those seeking truth, the prerequisite is a meaningful relationship with Sathanas, for without his guidance and knowledge, the all-important Gnosis will never be revealed to the searcher. Without him, the individual path becomes a quagmire, rife with detours, dead ends, wasted time, and wasted resources, leading to frustration after frustration. Each person has a finite number of hours to exist in our physical world. Do not squander what you have and expect more. Take responsibility for your development and take control of your life. Sathanas is waiting for you to make the connection. P.S. We live in a very high-stressed world, and many people seek self-medication, whether it is alcohol or drugs. These things are in themselves dangerous for the searcher. You can become addicted to these substances, and these substances will put you in spiritual chains if you allow it. This will lead to a spiral out of control of your entire life. That is not the life Sathanas wants for you. If you need help, find help. Break those chains. Ave Sathanas.